Hello. In my last video, I had mentioned something about the feast days, and I got a message saying that we were wrong and that the Passover is actually in May. And I wanted to address this because not only is it a serious thing, but I just really don't like it when people are confused and they're trying to do good, and because what man has done, it confuses them, and they end up in a place where they shouldn't be. And so we're just going to get into this. You're going to actually see that this is very simple. The Father's calendar, to know when it starts, and once you understand when it starts and how the Father instituted that, then everything else becomes extremely simple. And this whole concept is actually extremely simplistic once you get past all that man has tried to do. And we can clearly see here in Daniel 7, they will think to change times. So man is going to think to change the Father's calendar, and we see that he has done that. They created the Julius Caesar calendar, the Gregorian calendar, but notice it says they will think to change, not that they did change. Well, people would say, but they did. They created these other calendars. But that's man's calendar. That's not the Father's calendar. You see, you cannot change the Father's calendar. It's not possible, because his calendar is not on a piece of paper with boxes and numbers. His calendar is in the heavens, and he uses the sun and the moon. And it's the sun and the moon that are going to mark these times. Not just the moon, not just the sun, but the sun and the moon. And so I'm going to show you how this is done, and when the month of Abib starts, when we can know of a surety that it has started. And once you identify when the month of Abib is, then Passover is that full moon within that month. It's very simple. And so let's just get right into it. We're going to start in Genesis 1. We're going to look at the Father's calendar. So we go to Genesis 1. And it says, "And Elohim said, let there be lights in the firmament of the heavens to divide the day from the night, and let them be for signs, and for seasons, and for days, and for years." Well, we know that the sun and the moon are both used for signs. They're both used for seasons, but in different senses. So the moon cannot give you a planetary season, but it can give you a season in regards to a festival. But it will be the sun that actually gives you the planetary season, like spring or winter. And then it says, "and for days and years." And we could use the moon for days, but we would use the sun to identify our year. And so both the sun and the moon are used to identify a month, a specific month, and then a specific day, the moon. And with that, we can always find the beginning of his calendar. How is that done? It's what's referred to as a vernal equinox. And I got it right over here. And so if we look at this, you have the sun, and then you have the earth. And the earth is tilted at a 23-degree angle, and it's spinning at 1,000 miles an hour. That's how you get a day. And it's going to go around the sun at 67,000 miles an hour. On March 20th of 2025, we're going to put that right here. This is March 20th, 2025. This is when spring started last year, okay? It's what's called a spring equinox or vernal equinox. And we went around the sun, and on March 20th of 2026, we landed at the exact same spot, at the exact same time. And this marks when spring starts. It's the moment in which you have exactly 12 hours of daylight and 12 hours of darkness. And as you begin to go around the sun, you are going to get more daylight than darkness. You're going to get more rain. The rainy season will come in, and you are going to get blossoming. At this moment, this is when spring is initiated. And it never changes. March 20th. It can technically fall on the 19th or the 21st. When you get to this point, when you go around the sun and you get to this point, depending on where you are in your rotation and the other planets, sometimes they push us a little faster and sometimes they pull us and we're a little slower. But it will always fall between March 19th and March 21st. That is the beginning of spring. Always. It does not change. It happens every year in the sky at a certain moment. And when you see that happen in the sky, you now know you are in the month of Abib. Abib or Nisan means the month of spring. It's the month that initiates springtime. That would be right here. Once you've identified when spring starts, now you know you're in the month of Abib. And you are going to go back to the new moon, and that's the beginning of the month. And then at the full moon, that's when you will celebrate Passover. And we see this in Deuteronomy 16. Go back one. So if you look at Deuteronomy 16, observe the month of Abib, and keep the Passover unto Yahuwah thy Elohim. For in the month of Abib, Yahuwah thy Elohim brought thee forth out of Egypt by night. And so not only do we keep the Passover, but before we can keep the Passover, we must observe the month of Abib. To observe is to put a hedge around and to mark. Okay, I need to be able to mark this month. I need to be able to know when this month starts. If man decides to change it, how would I know? Well, the Father provided a way. His calendar does not change. If you want to know, if you want to observe the month of Abib, you're observing this moment. Abib, the month in which initiates spring. So once I understand that, I now know I am in the month of Abib. And now I'm just looking for the full moon. We know the full moon can't be before this moment because you're not in spring. It's a spring festival. So it has to be after this moment. And in this year, it fell on April 1st. The night of April 1st was the first full moon after spring, or Abib. So it's the first full month within the month of Abib. That cannot be May. It's impossible. So however they got that, using the other calendars, it's not correct. Not according to the Father's celestial calendar. We go over to Psalms 81. So this is Psalms 81. I'm going to start on verse 3. Blow up the trumpet in the new moon, in the time appointed on our solemn feast day. For this was a statute for Israel and a law of the Elohim of Jacob. This he ordained in Yosef for a testimony when he went out through the land of Egypt, where I heard a language that I understood not. We're supposed to mark the new moon, the beginning of that month. How would we do that? By the vernal equinox. When you understand the equinox, then you just go back to the new moon, and that was the beginning of your month. And you would have blown your trumpets, saying, this is the month of our festival. This is the month. This is spring. This is a new beginning. They were getting pulled out of Egypt. That's why the Father did it at this time. It's a new beginning for them. New life. They were slaves for 400 years. The Father used the vernal equinox to start his calendar. And no man cannot change that. That's why it says they think to change times. They can't actually change it because it's not on paper. It's in the sky. So unless you can change the orbit of the earth, how it orbits the sun and the moon, if you can affect those things, then you can change his calendar. But if you cannot affect those things, then you cannot change his calendar. It is a cycle, and it will come around every year at the exact same time. Go to Psalms 104. He appointed the moon for seasons. The sun knoweth his going down. Does the sun have a mind? And is the sun saying, oh, now I need to go down now? No. It's a cycle. It's a cycle and it's a constant. And the sun doesn't have a choice. It goes down because physics say go down. The Father's laws say go down. And this is what we need to get back to. We need to get back to understanding what we're seeing above us so that we don't get confused. And the Father left us a constant. If you're going to start a calendar, you have to have a fixed point. It cannot change because what is a calendar? A calendar is merely a period of time in which you are dividing up so you can measure time. If I'm going to measure something, I have to have a start point. And the vernal equinox is that start point. It is the initiation of spring, which initiates the month of Abib. It lets you know you are now in the month of Abib. And according to Deuteronomy 16, we are to observe the Passover in that month, which is March to April. It's not May, ever, because it never changes. All glory to the Father. Thank you for knowledge and understanding and wisdom. Remember, does not matter what calendars they make. They can make a dozen calendars. All I got to do is look up. He already provided me everything I needed. I don't need man to do anything. I just need to understand the way the Father constructed it. And he lets us know, if you want to understand seasons, if you want to understand times, then you need to look at the sun and the moon, not pieces of paper. So I love you guys. Hope this helps. All glory to the Father. See you on the next one.